Well, hello everybody, Rod again. Based on the comments from my last YouTube video, it was suggested that I needed to improve my audio somewhat. My little cheap $10 CVS headset just wasn't doing the job. So after much searching on YouTube and watching a bunch of dumb videos, it was another rabbit hole on how to remove money from my wallet. Anyway, I fell back to my old ways, just went out to Amazon, looked at the top mics that were out there, and settled on a little $15 mic. So I'm sure now I'll go from amateur status here to real pro level quality, and you'll be blown away. So that's the update on that front. This is video number 2, and this is enough chat for today, and so we're going to get busy. So today we're going to work on creating a template project that should get us on the road to creating the Too Tight to Wear calorie tracker. It's my little play on words with the Wear OS. I know it's not quite the dad joke worthy, but that's what it's going to be. The Android app is called Too Tight, and this one will be Too Tight to Wear. And yeah, full transparency, what you're looking up here on the screen above, this is a piece of crap. I spent several hours trying to build this little template app, and I mean, we're talking small, from scratch, starting with a blank activity or starting with no activity, going through all the known tutorials and trying to build this out. This particular one comes from a blog post on Medium, and real straightforward. I just, for the life of me, can't get it to work. And there's no errors in the code. I've got a main activity here, and all this really main activity does is call main tile service using the tile client UI. Going down into main tile service, we've got your standard stuff that you probably know about already. We've got the on tile request and on resource request, and all this really does is basically build a text string here that says test tile on it. It's got the correct settings in the settings Gradle as far as I understand. Test tile hello. It has, in the build Gradle, it has the correct includes that it needs. And then, of course, in the XML file, everything there. In the service, seems like it should be okay as well. The problem isn't with any of that. The problem comes into when you go into configure settings, when you actually want to run this and you go to edit configurations. You've got your Android app here. You can delete this if you want. But this here, if we go into the Wear OS tile, and you get this by hitting the plus button and going down to Wear OS tile. But if we go into the Wear OS tile, we'll see we can choose the module, but we can't actually choose the main tile service here. And I honestly just can't figure out why. I searched through basically every single Stack Overflow and couldn't find a single thing. I think this is more of an I'm an idiot when it comes to Android and just didn't know how to set it up yet or set it up correctly. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually, but as of right now, this was a total fail. And I was pretty mad about it. But I resisted the urge to beat my laptop with a hammer. It was somewhat hard, actually. But I ended up doing something a little bit different. So what I did instead of trying to build it from nothing is we'll come over to here. That's for a little bit later. What I did is I took the Google Code Lab, the one that has the Hello World in it and the messages. So it's the current Google Code Lab. And I basically decomposed it systematically. So took out everything that wasn't needed to do a template. The goal here is to essentially have a template that I can copy or that anyone can copy and basically say you can start here and build upon it. And then you've got at least a working tile app or tile project, I guess, that you can build on and then add whatever you like to it. So essentially that's what we're going to be doing. But this first one, we're just going to explain how we built this template tile. I'll make this available on GitHub so that people can use this if they want. And yeah, we'll go from there. So the first thing that I did is I came in and it had start and finish, so I deleted finish, all of the code in there. In the start code, I deleted most of the code that was around messages, and what I would do is I would delete some code and then basically make sure that it ran when I got a working version. I would save that version off and then copy and paste it. Funny tangent there is that when I actually posted it to, posted my final to GitHub, I was like, well, you dummy, you really should have probably just used GitHub, and then you would have had the versions all lined up the way you wanted them to. But that kind of ages me a little bit, because my old geezer strategy is, make a copy of what I have and then rename the copy to _2. So you'll see this one is actually called tile template _3. But regardless, it worked. So it's a real simple project. We won't spend a ton of time here. We'll try to keep this video as short as we can, and so I can get it posted, and then I can work on starting to actually build out the next one. So if we go into here, essentially we have, we just have one Kotlin class, if that's what they call it, called template tile service. You can rename this to whatever you want and refactor it, and it'll go and change the appropriate places. We still just have this one set up a little bit differently than the one I showed earlier. This is using the coroutines tile service. You can see there's lots. What I'm encountering is there's several ways to get a tile up and running, and this one here is the one that is in the Google Code Labs. It's also the timeline entry type part is also what Jeremy had in his original Google Code Labs. So we'll stick with that for right now until I know better. So we basically have nothing going on in the resource request. We're not asking for any graphics or anything at this point. When it does the tile request, it's basically just going through building the timeline, building this layout, and then finally calling tile layout. And tile layout is really just a small little function here that basically calls tile template body here to get this string, and then it sets that text from that text variable. And that string, is found in the strings XML, and tile template body here just says the template tile, and you can see the template tile is over here. A couple other things I had to change before I could get the project up and running, if you try and do this yourself, is in the settings Gradle. This had start and then comma, and then it had this basically it had the quotes, single quotes, the colon, and then start, and then it had a comma, and then it had finish as well. So that didn't automatically update when I did the refactoring, so I had to come in here and edit that. But otherwise, pretty much everything worked as we expected it to. The other thing in build.gradle, you'll see that we've got the where tiles in here. That's one of the requirements that is needed in order to actually leverage the UI from the system in order to build and display the tiles. So we've got that. There's a few other ones that Google recommends or says that are required, but at least for our little template, they seem to work just fine without it. If we go and flip over to that real quick, we'll see, they're saying we need to have where tiles, we've got that, tiles material, tiles render, and then tiles testing, and this is the debug implementation. We'll use this for sure in the next video, because this is what's going to allow us to actually preview our tile as we're building the layout. If you've read this information or are familiar with it, then you know that can't really view your tile the same way you can when you're building a standard, little phone Wear OS app. You have to kind of backdoor it. So otherwise, you'll see this is very similar, and then you've got a very similar on tile request and on resource request. And you can see here even their suggestions are a little bit different than the way it looks on the app or the template that I've created. And then of course in the Android XML file we need to add this service in here, and we've done that in there as well. So and all of this stuff is made to hopefully just be about as simple as it can possibly be, so that somebody can grab this, they can put it up there, and they can get something up and running just like a Hello World, and not have to struggle like I did as much, hopefully, in trying just to get a basic tile up and running without a bunch of extra code stuck in it so that you could, follow along with somebody else's tutorial. I didn't really want that. I just wanted the bare bones that I could get. So we'll go ahead and run this. It's already running, I guess, but we'll stop it. And you can see I did add the little donut in there as it fires up. So we'll watch this run over here. It should be quicker to start up. The trick I learned on my first video is run the dang thing first, because then it goes and does the Gradle build. And there you go. So there it is in all of its glory. Should be uber impressive. But that's what it's not supposed to be impressive. It's just supposed to work, and we're going to be able to build on top of that. Let me see if I can stop saying so much. So we'll look at, before we close, we'll look at the picture that I created. So here is just a small little demo of what I'm working to create, and you can see we talked about this just a little bit, where it has sort of the goal tile, the goal up top of what your calories are. This little swirly thing sort of to represent a reset button and how I can make this back to zero. Because again, this first go round really isn't persistent storage per se. And my experience, at least with another tile that I built, is that as long as the tile is up in your active tiles, it doesn't seem to reload when you swash to that tile, so it doesn't seem like my code will go through and set myself back to zero each time. But it doesn't also seem, like it, unless you hit this basically plus or minus button, that's what's going to increase or subtract from these total calories that you've eaten. So you need a way to reset it back to zero the next day or whenever you want. It'd be ideal if when you hit this, you had a little dial box confirmation. I've yet to see if that's totally possible within the tile ecosystem. I have a feeling that what we'll end up needing is to build this tile and then basically build an app behind the scenes that also gets installed, and that would then handle setting the goal, confirming the reset, and then if we do some persistent storage here in the future. But that's all kind of in the plans from my use case that I'm working on for building this anyways. So that's it. I think I covered everything I was going to cover today. I will post the project in the description, a couple other things if I find out where I got some of these links that I thought were decent reading. The Medium article I thought was pretty okay. I just couldn't get it to work, and I'm sure that's nothing wrong with the article. I'm sure it's just wrong with my abilities and my understanding of Android, being such a noob on it. So that's it, and a couple days. I've already started working on sort of this here behind the scenes, so once I get that kind of up and running and get it in another sort of 10-minute chunk or so, I'm just going to try to shoot for 15 minutes if I can, just to keep things sort of concise. I have a habit of rambling, just like I am now. So with that, I'll shut my pie hole, and we'll call it good for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.